What's going on? What's going on? This is Brandon, aka Fresh. Had to come on here and drop another video, guys. I'm excited to announce a lot of different changes. Very big moment, very major life update. You see the title of the video. I'm set to publish my very first book. Something it's on a subject that's very near and dear to me. For those of y'all who have been, subscribed to this channel when I first got it, I know here lately I've been kind of doing some education videos, talking about things that are very important to me, as an educator for 8 years, or over 8 years, really. But when I first started this channel, it was really kind of an extension of what I was already doing with things with, media related and me being a part of a basketball league. And for those who don't know, 5 years ago, myself and some other individuals, we all were paired together to help create the very first amateur pro alternative to the NCAA basketball league. That was started by LaVar Ball. For those who do not know who that is, he has 3 sons who were basketball prodigies. 2 of them were drafted in the top 3 in the NBA draft 2017 and 2020, that being LiAngelo Ball and LaMelo Ball. And if you're not much of a sports person, that is basically saying that those 2 individuals were considered in the entire world the top 3 basketball players for that upcoming draft period. So that's a feat and accomplishment in and of itself. So in 2018, we had a lot going on. They hit the scene in 2017, and they absolutely just took over the entire sports world, not just basketball. They took over the entire sports world, and he was at the forefront, due to a lot of his the things that he would say. He was very outspoken, very just didn't really care about anybody's thoughts as it pertained to what the mission was that he had. And his mission was to elevate the brand that he has. And coincidentally, I didn't even know that I was going to record this video today. I knew I wanted to do it soon, but I actually have on a very old shirt, Big Baller brand. That was the brand that he came up with in 2015, 2016, somewhere in that date range. I think it was 2016, but it caught absolute fire. I'm talking about like wildfire fire, where it was really on the cusp of competing with the big dogs in the athletic apparel, sports apparel industry, like Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. Like, they were really knocking at the heels at those huge conglomerates. And it was really built on a grassroots approach, mainly just from his mouth. And he also had an engine with, Lonzo being at that time, going to the draft as a potential #1 overall pick. It was absolutely, you had to be there. If you weren't watching sports at that time period, you had to have been there. You had to be a part of kind of that whole wave. So I got my start where, I was just enthralled and everything. Like, I was so on this wave that I had never seen anything like it. And I didn't really know anything about his kids. Like, I saw like a viral clip of Lonzo crossing somebody up, and the guy fell, and he picked him up off the ground or whatever like that. And I didn't even know what his name was. I would see his name. I was a big college basketball fan, so I'll see Lonzo Ball, UCLA. I'm like, I don't really watch UCLA like that because they're on West Coast and they play a little bit later. So I was like, I didn't even know who he was. And didn't even know who LaMelo Ball was. He went viral. He scored 92 points in a game. And then they saw the clips and they were trying to say that he was cherry picking a lot, which he did. But he also scored about 60 of those points just on being an exceptional basketball player. So there was a lot going on that helped elevate just the brand in general at that time period. And it was. I mean, if you just go back and just look at big baller brand LaVar Ball 2017, and they just took over all the analytics. You know, the Google numbers were ridiculous. The social media impressions were absolutely ridiculous. All of the above, but they're also getting a ton of negative publicity, a lot of hate, just a lot of people that did not like his approach, didn't like the way that things that he went about his business. You know, with just how, you know, braggadocious he was, how outspoken he was, and the fact that, you know, his kids, you know, they didn't, you know, really speak a whole lot, you know, in terms of, you know, their thoughts on things. So it almost made it seem like it was whatever he said, and that's just what it was. And people just they didn't really know how to respond to that. So, you know, that whole time period, you know, I just came out and I was such a huge advocate on my personal Facebook page. I'm talking about like just going ham, going in on people like, man, why y'all not supporting this? You know, this is what he's trying to do. This is the objective. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all need to really get behind this as a black man, you know, that has his own brand and, you know, all this stuff. I'm just going in on people, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of that I touch on it in my book. In the book, you know, quick little plug, it's called the JBA League, A League of Our Own, with another subtitle of We Did It First. And I'll get to that here in a moment. But, you know, I really was just like, I wasn't understanding like why, especially us, when I say us, like black folks, like why we weren't like the main ones championing it. Like, yeah, man, this is what we need. You need some independence, you know, break away from the major corporations, you know, have our own stuff, you know, that type of thing. And, you know, it just, I was just on it. Like every time he did something, like I'm commenting on it, I'm writing these long posts on Facebook. You know, I'm getting into it with some of my Facebook friends and all that. And it was just a time, man. You just had to be there. So that was 6 years ago. So there was a lot of other stuff that took place. You know, he had some pretty, you know, negative publicity moments that happened that summer. You know, he took his son off the court for AAU game, and it just didn't look good. You know, he pulled LaMelo out of school because he wasn't getting along with the coach, the new basketball coach at his high school. Just completely unenrolled him, didn't put him in another school. And then, you know, his middle child, LiAngelo, got into a situation in China while he was at UCLA where he stole some sunglasses. So instead of saying, you know what, you know, let's let him just, you know, eat his punishment, however many games he's going to sit out for, we'll figure that out. If it's the whole season, if it's half the season or whatever, you know, and we'll just come back and we'll you know, he unenrolled him and said, we're going overseas. We're going to Lithuania, of all places. You know, people was like, Lithuania, what? Like, are you serious? Like, what in the world? But of all places, you know, you're talking about like a place way on the other side, and they're living in California, the LA area. So way on the other side of the world, you know, I think it was like 15, 16 hour flight or something to that effect. You know, you go from 70-degree weather to 30-degree weather. You go from a place where, you know, it's familiar. You're on American soil. Like I just said, you know, sunshine, all of the above, to, you know, they don't speak your language as well. The culture is completely different. You know, so he found a league where they can play basketball, or a good league rather. You know, the LKL, one of the top leagues in the world. The problem was that there was a lot of moving pieces that had to take place just for them to even play. Like, so they had to, you know, it was a lot, man. I touch on that in the book a little bit. You know, but in the meantime, he announces late in 2017 that he's going to start this new professional amateur basketball league. You know, for players who don't want to sit in the classroom trying to get, you know, past chemistry, biology, you know, when all they want to do is play basketball. It's like, why do I got to pass the chemistry test to do something that I already know what I want to do? You know, Why is it the athletes that have to be the ones that get penalized if, we want to just focus on our craft? Something that has no major correlation was his point. So let me start this league. Let me get 8 teams, 64 players, 8 players a team, and we're gonna, I'm gonna pay them $3,000 to $10,000 a month for them to play and get exposure and have this alternative route that you don't have to go to school, to play. So they go off to Lithuania. They stay for a few months or so. And then, around April, the start of April, he starts the trials for the JBA league. So you start, you go to Los Angeles or Seattle, Los Angeles, you go to Texas, Dallas, Houston. Then you go to Atlanta, and that's where I met them at, was Atlanta. And that's where I got my start. So my start actually came, let me back up just a moment. So I met them in Atlanta in 2018 in April. I started my website, and I had a blog website back in 2014, 2015 that I let go. And I made another long post on Facebook late in 2017 with everything kind of going on. And then, I guess, my sister finally had it. She was like, "Brandon, why don't you just put this on your website?" And I was like, dang. I didn't think about it. I probably could, start up a site and just start talking about LaVar Ball and Big Baller Brand content like how I used to do. And that's what I did. So I just started off, like, as soon as I went to Lithuania, I launched the site, started just typing up, pretty much counter stories to whatever the mainstream media was putting out, which was a lot of negative pieces. And I was kind of like doing a counter of that. I was always trying to find whatever I could positive about what they had going on. And, LaVar took a liking to it, and it was highlighted in their reality show, Ball in the Family, that you would catch him reading my stuff, like my tweets, and, he shouted me out, one time in particular on the episode. So and no, not just that, but it was one time in February, I did a story about, he had a water company that he was doing. He had found a place in Lithuania to produce water. So he had this Big Baller Brand water, and his whole slogan was, "We went across the water to go get the water," or whatever. So I'm like, shoot, if he's in the water industry, that's a $1 billion industry. So if he does this right, Big Baller Brand can mess around and be worth $1 billion. Like, he can get the billion that he had always talked about. So I did a story on that, and I never forget. Like, I press publish like I always do, go about my business, and I was just at home. I think my wife and I, we were just sitting down, and I don't know, we were waiting for our kids to get out of school or something. It was something going on. I think it was just the two of us. I can't remember. But I just remember just picking up my phone, checking the analytics. And normally my site's small, so I'm getting 2-3 people on the site at one time, maybe doing a few hundred or so page views a day. I can't remember. Maybe, it wasn't nothing major. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So I look at my analytics, and they like jumping. I'm talking about like hundreds and thousands of people on the site at one time. So I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, what's going on? So I go to my Twitter. That's the first place I go to, and I look at the very top, and it's Big Baller Brand's account had retweeted my story, and it had like 10,000 likes and retweets and all that, and I'm just like, what? Like, and for those of y'all who may have followed heavily as close as I did, they didn't retweet or nothing like that. They didn't hardly post anything except for their stuff, which was really, they probably could have posted a lot more than what they did. But they definitely didn't retweet. Only things they retweeted were ESPN and Slam Magazine, and maybe something that was like major that, they may have done. So it would have had to have been something really major. So little old me got retweeted by Big Baller Brand. But the funny thing about this whole thing is that I didn't even notice until the next day. LaVar was the first one to retweet it. So like my whole mind was blown because I'm like, LaVar retweeted my stuff, and then Big Baller Brand, which is what I saw, retweeted the same thing. So like I was like tripping. So I was like, man, I definitely, this is like a sign. I definitely got to keep at this thing and keep going at it. And that's when, eventually I linked up with the guys from Big Baller Brand, Alan Foster to be exact. I shout out to my guy AB the Hero, Alan Bell. He linked up with them in person first, and then he said, hey, y'all need to, get up with this guy too. He's basically just like me. He does a lot of positive spin, more so on the written aspect. He did YouTube, but I had the written aspect of things. So we kind of had two different worlds, but we kind of came together for the same cause. And we didn't know each other. I reached out to him probably, maybe in February as well, trying to, hey, how can we collab and link up type situation. So for him to even think about me like that, like he's a major reason. So he gave me Alan's number. I called Alan. We kind of lost touch, and after about a week or so, I was like, man, what do I do? Because they got tryouts. I'm over here on the East Coast. Like the closest place to me is Atlanta. So I made a business decision. I said, look, told my wife, I think I need to go down there. I just feel it in my heart and my soul. I need to go down there. They're gonna be there. Like, and it's pretty much the only time I feel like I can get that close to them. So I just need to be there. So she said, all right, go. So I went, stayed with my sister. She was living in Atlanta at the time. And, this is in the book as well. And I'll detail a whole lot more in the book. But, I'm just sitting in the gym. I get there really early. I think the tryouts, may have started at like 9 or 10 o'clock. Whatever it was, I made sure I was going to be there like at least 30 minutes or an hour beforehand, So the school was locked in the front, but I saw that there was cars like in the parking lot. So I was, let me go around the back, they call me a finesse guy. You know what I'm saying? I always found a way to finesse my way into a situation. So I go into the back of the school, and they're having like some sort of Saturday class or whatever. I don't know what it was exactly. Whatever it was, they're having some sort of Saturday class or something. So I walk in, I'm like, okay, let me go into the gym. So I walk into the gym, nobody's in the gym, the lights are all off. So I'm just sitting so I found a chair at the front of the gym. I'm like, let me sit right here so they can see me whenever they walk in. And so I'm sitting in this chair, and then the head coach for the basketball team, he walks in because obviously they need permission and all that. So he opens up the gym for him, and shout out to him, George Washington, that's his name. He's from Mississippi, and he actually went to Alabama. I'm an Alabama alum myself. So it was pretty ironic that we had that tie. So I think, did I have Alabama? I had something, maybe my shoes said Alabama, but we started talking about it, and so I was like, okay, at least the coach is cool, like what I'm saying, like we had a little connection, so it wasn't no static from the jump. So I'm sitting there, like he's setting everything up, and then I see LaVar's brother was one of the first ones that walked in, Lorenzo. And I think he just said, hey, what's up, and then Alan comes in, and you could tell he was always, kind of, about business, kind of always skeptical about, about certain things or whatever. So he comes over to me, and he's like, who are you? And like, hey, I'm Brandon, with Fresh Sports Talk. That was what the site was called at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm Brandon with Fresh Sports Talk. We spoke on the phone. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha. So so he was, so we talked a little bit. I could still tell he was kind of like skeptical about, me and whatnot. And so I explained who I was and in more details. Like, yeah, we know who you are. And it was funny because he had told me that apparently like LaVar may have had a problem with one of the latest things that I had tweeted, about LaMelo, because I was always like, I would just say whatever I felt was real. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. Like, if I felt like, whoever, needed to improve on something, I would say it. Like, I'm not going to just, because I support you, I'm not going to be like, yeah, you're perfect or whatever. So I think I may have said something about LaMelo in one of his last games, that I didn't think he was playing as well, that he could be doing this better or whatever. He's like, yeah, I think LaVar, he was like, yeah, LaVar didn't like something you had said recently or whatever. And I was like, really? Like, what'd I say? So I think, the last impression was kind of a little salty a little bit. Maybe that's not the right choice of words, but, for those of y'all who don't like LaVar, for those of y'all who don't know LaVar, he loves his family. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'll critique, his boys all day long, but you have to come correct when you're critiquing them. Like, if he feels like it's coming from a place of hate and negativity, he ain't gonna have nothing to do with you. I believe, and actually I know that he knew, based on all the other stuff that he read from me and my articles and my tweets, that I was coming from a place of support, place of love. Like, I wasn't on no hating stuff. It's like, look, LaMelo could do this better. Jello could do this better. Whether you liked it or not at that moment, that's to be understood or whatever. But that's just kind of where I was at. I don't never really kiss nobody's behind. Even if I support you, I was just like, hey, I didn't like how such and such was playing at the time or whatever it may have been. So we had that little moment, and he's like, yeah, you can kind of help out, you can video, but don't post nothing. You take pictures, but don't post nothing right now. And I was like, all right, cool. I mean, this is y'all event, so I respect it. But I think he was sizing me up as well, because I made it known that, hey, I want to be a part of what y'all got going on in some kind of way. Like, how can I help? How can I help with the league? And they were looking for people anyway to kind of, help be a part, because they knew that they were going to have to fund this themselves, and, getting experienced people, is going to have a price tag, So, I do the event, and I end up, kind of linking up with them later. I have a little bit more about that in the book. Linked up with them afterwards, and we were off to the races, man. Al and I, we spoke a few days or so after that. Had a long conversation, like 2 hours conversation. And again, I detail a lot of that in the book of what took place and how I pretty much got offered into the JBA. And then also how I almost talked myself out of being in the JBA to Allen. How him telling me to join, and then what seemed like 24 hours later, it was like, hold up, now we might have to go another direction. That's all in the book. I'm smiling because it's funny, but at the time, like, I was like panicking big time, because I'm like, I know I didn't just screw this up just that quickly. But, I ended up going to LA, meeting LaVar in person, met the rest of the team, the JBA team, which was only a handful of us. When I say a handful, you're talking about a professional league that's set to pay out, in monthly salaries, $250,000, right? That's, hold on, wait a minute. 64 times 3,000. I should have did the math before I said it. But yeah, $250,000 in salaries on a monthly basis, right? Paying $3,000 a month per player. Like that's what the expectation was, right? So that's you're not normally going to get with that sort of budget. You're expecting hopefully to have a whole lot more people on the staff to try to make sure that this thing goes down the way that you needed and wanted to go. So I get there and it's literally like 5 other people in the room with me, not including Alan. You know what I'm saying? That's like these are the guys that's going to help kind of build this thing, create this thing, and take it from point A to Z. You know what I'm saying? So and then 2 of those eventually didn't make the cut, and I'll talk about that in the book. So we were really shorthanded. Yes, we had other people that helped join on. We had a lot of interns eventually that came aboard. A lot of others that kind of had to play more roles. I'll talk about the many hats that I wore because it was a lot of hats that I wore. It was just a lot. So, I detail, pretty much my perspective of my journey, from the start, how I got involved with just, wanting to support LaVar and the Big Baller brand, to, how the JBA got formed, to that entire summer where we went all over the country, all those different cities, the little stuff that y'all didn't know that happened behind the scenes, the drama with the players, the drama amongst some of the staff, it's all this type of stuff that, people just need to know. I ain't gonna reveal everything, but I revealed a good amount that I felt kind of tells the story from my perspective of what it takes and what it took, to have something be special. And the JBA to me is extremely special. The JBA birthed, a lot of what you're seeing now with the G League, the Overtime Elite, and I'm sure there'll be other leagues that'll try to do something very similar. I also believe that it helped pave the way for this NIL stuff that's taking place. All of that helped, and we were a part of that, and I'm very, very proud of my involvement to be a part of history. Who that just wakes up every day and says, you know what, I've been a part of history. I did something that was bigger than myself, So all the staff members, all the players, all the coaches, everybody that played a part, the interns, everybody that played a part in helping us, make the JBA what it was. This book is for everybody. It's for them. You know what I'm saying? So if I sell, 5 copies, 50 copies, 500, 5,000, it really doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want the story to be heard and to be told, and I want to make sure that the JBA is not forgotten. It was too important, regardless of how anybody may feel about the motive behind it. We still did it. We did it. We accomplished it. We did something that a lot of people didn't think would even happen. And again, we opened up so many doors for a lot of these other companies to say, you know what? I think they got some here, So I'm proud of that. That is a huge accomplishment in my life, and I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful to LaVar, to Alan, to everybody in Big Baller Brand. Who thought enough of me to have such a major role and play such a big part in this. Because in my mind, the JBA doesn't happen without me. You know what I'm saying? And the JBA doesn't happen without a lot of the other members that were on that staff, because it took a special group of people to leave your families. I had a son that just turned 1 and 2 other kids, so 3 kids, my wife, who absolutely held it down that entire summer. I wouldn't have been able to do it without her, but all of us had these struggles, the coaches, the players, everybody, sacrificed something in order for this to happen. And I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful to everyone that had a hand into making this happen. And my only prayer is that, if you read it, you're able to say, you know what, this thing was real. This wasn't just some fly by night LaVar pipe dream. that he just wanted to make sure his sons had somewhere to play. Like, this thing happened, and we impacted lives, one way or another. And we made history. We changed the game in terms of how you think about professional, amateur sports and having an alternative to the NCAA, especially in basketball, because it had never been done before on American soil, especially. So, I hope that y'all enjoy the book. Your support is, I can't even tell you how much your support is. It means the world. It is needed and necessary and appreciated. The book will be available on Amazon on an ebook version. It'll also be available in the paperback as well. We'll start with the ebook first. One of my major goals is to hit the Amazon bestseller list. So once it goes live, and I'll drop links in the description as well for that. So for the paperback pre-order, that's a signed copy. Yes, I will give you a signed copy of this book. And then the ebook obviously is online. But that would help with the, helping me get to an Amazon bestseller. That would be a major accomplishment for me. So if you see this video, please hit that link in the description. Buy as many copies as it'll let you. It's just a big form of support. So I appreciate you all. I appreciate those who followed me from the very beginning. There's so many of y'all who, thought enough of me to follow me on Twitter, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. What was this, 5 years ago when I started this? And I'm forever grateful for each of y'all. Like, y'all have no idea. This has been quite the ride, man. Like, one day I'll really look back at this, once, forever, however this takes me. This is a moment in time. I'm sitting in front of my house. It's 90 degrees outside. Thankfully, I'm in the shade, but it's hot still. But this is a moment in time that I'll look back and I'll say, man, I didn't have many books sold at the time, but once it went live, like, people just supported and came, and maybe I'll be somewhere speaking. Maybe I'll be on TV somewhere talking about the book. And it's going to be y'all that's going to help propel me to that, So again, support. I appreciate it. It's man. I'm excited, man. I'm excited with what the future holds, and I thank God for, giving me this platform to be able to even have anybody that would even want to read a book. So, but thank y'all. I've talked long enough. Get the book. What I just spoke about is literally a fraction of what you'll get inside this book. It's a lot of words, a good amount of pages. I think it's a good read. And that was from the feedback that I got from my editor, who did an exceptional job. So if you like to read, if you like a good story, I think that I did a pretty decent job in providing that for you. So, all right, y'all, I'm signing off. This is Brandon, aka Fresh. Thank y'all so much. I'll see y'all on the next one.